Pep Talk UK, Pro Bs up in North London. Delighted to be joined once again by the one, the only, yes, he's in the building, Mr. Don Charles. How are you?
I'm very well, brother. How are you?
Everything's good. Just hot back from Vegas, back to the rain, back to the grey skies, but who's complaining? How's life?
Life is good, Brian. We're blessed, you're blessed, we're all blessed, Life is good. No complaints whatsoever.
Now, the whole boxing fraternity, the whole boxing community, everyone across the globe has been talking about that massive fight, which your son participated in the preparation for Tyson Fury. And it was a hell of a fight with a dramatic result. I'd like to hear your say on the whole massive clash between Fury and Wilder.
Where do we start? Basically, obviously, it was a rematch. They'd already fought, and everybody who watches boxing, you saw what happened in the first fight. Fury touched canvas twice, and that was the Fury that was out of the ring for 3 years. And considering it'd been out for 3 years, that first encounter, he was winning the fight. He won the fight, but obviously the 2 touchdowns gave an argument that they deemed it to be a draw. Had he not touched down twice, then obviously that would have been the question. He would have won the first encounter. But nevertheless, that gave birth to the second fight, which took place just over a week ago. And, I probably, had you interviewed me prior to the fight, you couldn't because I know you was busy in Vegas. Had you interviewed me prior to the fight, I probably was one of the few people in the country that saw that what the result for this second fight would be. I predicted not only would Fury win it, I predicted that he would do it by the way of stoppage. When I was telling people in the gym, it all starts in the gym, you have your gym banters and stuff, which is really, really good. Everybody's got their opinion. And when I first said it in the gym, people were looking at me like, what are you saying? And I said it and I gave my reasons why I believed it would end by the way of stoppage. And obviously, can Wilder win? Yes, he can, based on his previous, what he's shown, that he's knocked out literally every opponent that's been in the ring with him. He's knocked them out. If he didn't do the first time, if you rematch him, he will knock you out. Yeah, and also having inside information, which I can now say, because prior to the fight, it wouldn't be right for me to disclose anything that I may know. From my son, George, being a part of, I had 2 fighters in that camp, Jordan Thompson, who's a cruiserweight, who's also got drafted into the Team Fury camp for the preparation for that fight. And now, I'm not a hypocrite. When my son was drafted in to be one of the sparring partners for Fury, then Jordan Thompson, my cruiserweight, was also drafted in to be a part of that team. I believe David Adelaye, who's a one-fight pro, okay, and I believe there was an American, I'm not sure his name, heavyweight. Again, I think he's only had 5 professional fights or so. So the Americans had 5 professional fights. David had only had 1 professional fight. My son had only had 3 professional fights. And Jordan Thompson was the most senior out of the lot, the cruiserweight. He's had 10/11 professional fights. So, but if you put collectively all those sparring partners, you would look upon that. Me as a coach, I would look at that as an inexperienced camp in the terms of the personnel, the fighters he'd enrolled, yeah, handpicked to prepare him for a fight of that magnitude. I questioned it. Then I thought maybe he's going to use these guys, the young ones, novices, to start the camp, and then maybe halfway or towards the end of the camp, change them and get more experienced fighters. That's what I believe they were going to do. But to my surprise, they kept the same personnel all through the camp. They didn't change it. They didn't bring in any more experienced fighters. Again, remember, he'd only just changed coaches. I questioned that too. Going into a fight of that magnitude, what you was doing before worked, and why then go and change the old saying is, If it's not broken, don't mend it. And what also some people fall into the mistake of doing, sometimes why wait for it to break till you fix it? Obviously, Fury being Fury, and his father, you've got to commend his father. His father was very, very vocal regarding what his son does. His father is very influential, like damn right he should be. He knows his son better than anybody, okay? Him being a fighter himself also, he knows his son's, what his son can do, what he can't do, his son's mentality. So he was trying to tell the general public, you know, and I too, I'm not a hypocrite, I questioned it. Is it just a father getting carried away? I questioned that, because I'm a father too, and I have a son who also boxes, you know? There's only so much you can interfere as the father into whatever your child or son, daughter is doing in sports. A lot of parents have a tendency to over-interfere in some cases, in most cases, should I say, yeah? So going back to the Fury camp, yeah, I questioned it. He's got, in my opinion, inexperienced fighters to do that camp, and they did the whole duration of the camp, you know, to my surprise, with a new coach. Very, very daring, very ballsy, you know. So, yeah, so during camp, my son kept me posted because I wasn't there. I was asking him how camp was going, and he was telling me, he said, this guy, he used the word chameleon. He said, Fury is a chameleon. He will figure you out, your pattern, then he will engulf you and swallow you. That's what he's doing in camp, yeah? He will get your pattern. The guy's very, very clever, a very clever fighter. And George described him as a chameleon. A chameleon will come into an environment, usually they're green, they walk around green, and they'll suddenly, like the same chameleon you'll be looking at, will take the colors of whatever the surroundings, it becomes its surroundings. That's Fury. Yeah.
You mentioned John Fury in the build-up to the fight being so confident that his son would come out on top. He had that heated argument with David Hay. Well, a lot of people were talking about what John Fury said. He did say, look, my son's going to do the business in emphatic style. And David Hay obviously said that Wilder would come out on top. Would you make all of that?
Yeah, everyone's got their opinion. David Hay has his, you're talking about a guy who's been in there and done it at a very, very high level. So, you know, he has every right to have his opinion. Everybody's got their opinion. But he happens to be talking to the father, like I said earlier on, about a father who's a fighter himself, knows his son better than anyone, better than me, better than you, better than David Hay, better than the whole world. He knows his son. He knows what his son is capable of. And he knows the son that went into the ring for the first Wilder fight. So that's what he's trying to tell people. Because he knows his son inside out. He knows the son that went in there. Yeah? And he knows that the son now, who's now going to weigh mentally repaired, physically repaired, that's why he was so confident what his son would do in the return fight. And boy, did he do exactly what he said on the tin, what the father said, you know. And yeah.
Well, the way the fight concluded, obviously Mark Brulin, he threw in the towel, and then a lot was made of that, throwing in the towel. As a trainer yourself, tell us about how you gauge when a fighter is no longer in a fight and when it potentially becomes dangerous. How do you know when the right moment is?
Yeah, first and foremost, trainer has to know his fighter. Every trainer, you have to know your fighter. Yeah, you have to make it your job. I've always said, I've been very vocal when it comes to this. I've been accused in the past of throwing the towel in. Damn right I will throw the towel in. If I feel my fighter has a family to go back to. I have my conscience also to deal with. Yeah? If you know your fighter, you should know when your fighter is hurt. You should know certain behaviors you see, certain things you will see, and then you should make that decision. You are employed, you are paid by that fighter for that, to not just to coach them. You're employed, you've got their back, you should know, yeah? One thing I was actually alarmed and disappointed in, yeah? Damn right he should have thrown the towel in. Yes, he knows his fighter. I thought the towel came in late, if you ask me. my honest opinion, I know it's a big fight. Quote me, don't quote me, should I say, if, from what we've been taught when you're trying to get your license as a coach, especially a head bleed, anywhere from the head, if the blood is trickling pretty thin, that then means it's not too serious. If the blood is thick, those are the first signs. You must immediately call the doctor. There is a doctor ringside. I don't recall at any point was a doctor summoned by the coach to come and, please, can you have a look at the bleed from the ear? Then the doctor would determine whether it was safe enough for the fighter to continue, right? At no point did this happen. That fight, in my opinion, should have been stopped by the fifth round, in my opinion, based on the bleed. Yeah? Now, I'm really disappointed that people are accusing Mark Breland of throwing the towel in. I thought the towel in my opinion, came too late, because at some point you could see that this guy, it's getting worse for him in terms of the beating he was getting. It was getting worse. And he lost every sense of a boxer. He was so disorientated, Wilder this is. He didn't know what was happening to him. Yeah? It was in total confusion. Yeah? Because Fury was just on him, not letting off, on him. And there comes a point where you speak, I'm sure I didn't hear what the corner was saying to him. You asking your question, you have to ask the fighter, what are you feeling? And then you've got to go back to the basics. He wasn't even doing the basics. I'm not here to criticize Wilder, because that's taking credit away from Fury. You can only do what your opponent is allowing you to do, right? Remember, I have trained a fighter to fight Fury twice. Twice. The first time, Derek wasn't not in the best shape to be in the ring, but nevertheless, he was in the ring. Second time, we trained. I was so sure that we got this guy's number. We know how to beat this guy. We didn't get a look in. We did not get a look in. It was almost that reminiscent of what happened to Wilder, except for we pulled Derek out by the 10th round, I believe. Yeah. Again, I would actually say, because in a championship fight, you always want to give your fighter a chance. You know, Derek has the ability to turn it round. At least Derek was trying. He was trying to stalk him. Yeah. Fury was just too smart on the day for us. Too smart. He's very smart. It's more apparent now. Then when you look back at the Derek Chisora's performances against him, then you have to commend Derek, the fighter, and myself, because ours was bad, but not to the degree of what happened last week. And, you know, Fury is not the prettiest to the eye. No, he's not. In some cases, as a coach looking, as a boxing purist, in some cases, you could say this guy is a bit clumsy, but he's a bloody clever, clumsy guy, right? He's his boxing IQ is more apparent. His boxing IQ is up there with the best, like your Mayweathers and that, Andre Ward. His boxing IQ is cute, yeah? And it's more apparent. And he's a guy who's also very versatile. He can adjust during fights. Not a lot of fighters have that ability to adjust during fights. So wherever you bring, he's able to, remember I said earlier on, he's like a chameleon. He becomes you. He infiltrates you and becomes you. Yeah?
Talk to me about when you have to throw the towel in. Talk to me about the conversation that you need to have with your fighter in the locker room. How do you explain to them that you were doing it for the best of their best interest, for their safety after the fight?
Yeah, listen, the fighter is not silly. The fighter knows. Yeah, whether it's macho, whether it's saving face, you are there to protect your fighter, to live to fight another day. End of story. They're employing you for those reasons. Yeah, so you've also then trust should develop between the fighter and the coach. So if you pull your fighter out, the fighter should have the trust that, coach, you know what? You know better. Yeah, thank you for watching. I've got a family to go back to. Yeah, live to fight another day. There is such a thing. This is boxing. This ain't no football. Even football is dangerous. Every contact sport is dangerous. Yeah, especially boxing. You can't. What more did we need to see? it wasn't getting any better. He wasn't getting a look in. He wasn't landing anything. He wasn't creating anything. So why are you leaving him in? And he was bleeding from the ear and his equilibrium because of how the first time he went down, I believe he got cuffed behind just the ear, and that sends you silly, yeah. And you know, from a heavy-handed 18.5 stone, 6'9" guy with 10-ounce gloves, right? He's disorientated wild. If you saw him after he took that first punch, he was never the same. He got up, and Aman's peppering him with jabs, hooks, body punching him. He's never experienced anything like that in his whole career. People, how dare you get close? Nobody's ever got close to Wilder to even put a glove to his stomach. Fury was touching him upstairs, pulling the trigger downstairs. He was experiencing things that was unfamiliar to him. So again, that causes confusion to the fighter at the receiving end. And no complaints whatsoever. And anyone who's saying the Mark Brilliant shoot, no, hell no, no. They should be commending him. The fighter should be thanking his coach. He should trust his coach, which I'm sure behind the scenes, of course he trusts his coach. Mark Brilliant is the ex-world champion, become a wicked fighter in his time. Yeah, he knows boxing. Yeah, he knows boxing. So that shouldn't even be questioned about him throwing the towel in. Yeah, it came in too late, if you ask my personal opinion. But it came in. But it came in too late.
What do you make of a lot of the post-fight analysis and a lot of the American media? They mentioned potential cheating. That the gloves went on properly and Fury was actually using his knuckles.
Knuckles?
Yeah.
You're supposed to use your knuckles inside the glove.
Basically, they were saying a glove wasn't on properly.
Okay, let me put people who are questioning that right. We happen to live in a world where, especially at this level, at any level, boxing is governed. Before you put a pair of gloves on in any fight, whether it's a fight in your call, when people are building their careers up, or fight in Vegas, MGM, Caesars, wherever, there is an couple of officials from the governing bodies would have been present to certify the hands being wrapped, number one. Also, somebody from the Wilder's team would have been in that room for the gloves hand wrap, which the official from the WBC in this case will sign the wraps being done. Yeah, means they're satisfied the hands been wrapped appropriately. Yeah, when it comes to the gloves being inserted, the hands being put into those gloves that's been pre-chosen. Again, the official will be there to see the fighter put both hands in the gloves, and then taped up. Then the official would usually sign it off. Sign it off means he's happy with it. Right, imagine this, your hand wrap is there, signed off. Your gloves is there, signed off. Yeah? So at what point then, and once this is done and tied, the laces are tied, they're bonded, and the tape's gone over there, you can't, it's impossible for you to then pull your hands out. No, impossible. So therefore, all those accusations, yeah, I've seen the clips where Fury is punching with the inside of his palm. Fine, that could be deemed as an illegal punch, but there's a referee there who should have pulled him up on that. Did he? I don't remember that. That part of it, yes. But in terms of that, they tampered with the gloves, no. I will say no, because reason being, we are living in a world where things are done properly at every level in boxing, especially at that level. There would have been officials in there, WBC officials, to officiate the hands being wrapped, number one. Number two, the hands going inside the gloves and being tied, laced up, and taped and signed off. So after that's done, you can't open the glove, you can't tamper with them, and you can't, it's impossible for you to pull your hands there to hold it from the, you know, so really and truly, no, that doesn't wash with me.
All right, moving forward, obviously today we've had the announcement, Anthony Joshua is making his return to London, to your football team's ground, Spurs.
Yes. Double yes, yeah, come on Anthony, Tottenham, the only way.
Yeah, how does he get on against, obviously he had that good comeback win against Andy Ruiz Jr., where he boxed smart, kept out of range, you know, showed a different side to his repertoire. Pulev is strong fighter, maybe not the prettiest, a lot of people say, but will be a stern test for Anthony Joshua.
Most definitely. Listen, you mustn't, at this level, at any level, especially at this level, you must never underestimate any campaigner. I remember Pulev was supposed to fight Anthony Joshua a couple of years ago, and then he got injured. Pulev pulled out with injury.
For the Takam fight.
Absolutely. Then Takam stepped in for Pulev. And look, every fight is a dangerous fight. Pulev is no mug. I believe he's only lost once to Klitschko, right? And he was in that fight, and he took a vicious left hook that put him away. Pulev is a very, very good fighter. Tough, strong. Yeah? And yeah, it's not gonna be an easy fight. It's not an easy fight. But obviously Joshua wins the fight, and in emphatic fashion. Yeah, I'm not his coach. They'll work out a game plan, how to approach that one. But I'm playing it in my head. Uses box smart, and he will get the stoppage.
To conclude, Derek Chisora, it looks like it's rubber stamp for the end of May versus Alexander Usyk. How do you see this one?
Right, people, again, I always use this, I probably overused it. People might think I'm drinking alcohol, yeah? When I make these predictions, it's not because I used to train Derek. Derek not only beats him, he stops him. Stops Usyk, yeah? There's all, human beings, we're like sheep, we follow. Because so-and-so has said so-and-so, we don't examine it ourselves, How I see that fight, yes, Usyk will be doing well. He's a good boxer. He's a very, very good boxer. He'll be doing well. But he's campaigning at heavyweight now, right? Okay, it's a slightly different ball game. And he'll be boxing Derek's head off. And Bing, Derek will knock him out. I'm telling you, I'll give you an example. We took a fight years ago. Yeah, we were matched up against a Malik King Scott. Yeah, Malik was 36-0 when he was matched with Derek. I had friends of mine calling me, why the hell have you taken that fight? He's going to box Derek's head off. I said, yeah, he's going to box Derek's head off, but during the period of 12 rounds, we will catch him at some point and we will knock him out. And it's not match at talk. You plan how you're going to do it, and I believe it was 5 rounds, and she came home to roost. The same will happen with Usyk. He'll be boxing Derek. Derek will be tracking him, sensibly tracking him, yeah? And when Derek puts punches on him, yeah, trust me, he'll get him out of there. I don't believe the hype. Usyk is a brilliant boxer. I'm not putting the guy down whatsoever, but he gets stopped by Chisora.
Wow, you heard it from the man himself, Mr. Don Charles.
I'm overqualified because I know Derek inside out. Also, all the southpaws, he has 4. Yeah? What have they all got in common? He's knocked them all out.
Very insightful. We'd like to big up the man himself, Mr. Don Charles, and new surroundings that are going to be popping off. Summer 2020. I'll let you conclude.
Yeah, as you can see, we are now in a new home, Pug London, and yeah, this is where it's all going to be happening from like you said we haven't officially launched yet. We're still building, getting it ready, and but I'm the chef. I'm cooking up, preparing the fighters. We have to train constantly. Where there's a ring, we work. So therefore, yeah, we're working, getting this home built, and officially we're going to launch it in May. And this is our new home, Pug London.
Cracking stuff. Don Charles, thanks for your time. Pep Talk, make sure you subscribe. Thank you.
Pleasure. My pleasure. Big up Pep Talk UK.